Hi, we're here today with Niraj Nagpal, who is the Director of Business Development APAC for IPONWEB. Welcome, Niraj.
Thank you for having me this morning.
Yeah, great. So look, what we're going to be talking about today are some of the key themes as we move on the road towards ATS, which is going to be held on the 24th and 25th of June here in Singapore. Yeah. There are a range of different key themes that we're going to be covering at the event. And so excited to be talking to you about some of your opinions on what these key themes are.
And they're a bit strong sometimes, but yeah,
right,
thank you for having me.
Great. I can see that one of the biggest themes that has been coming through is a discussion around private marketplaces in APAC.
Yep.
And so one of the panel sessions that we have on the agenda is where we're going to be talking about the reign of the private marketplace in APAC, and some of the trends that we've seen around the dominance of PMPs in this part of the world.
And maybe the usefulness of it as well.
Yeah, right.
I think.
Right. So, yeah, what are you sort of seeing in this space?
I mean, I think that the idea of PMPs when they first came to APAC was about 5 years ago. And back then, publishers were just testing their toes of programmatic. And should we do it? Should we not do it? Is it going to be better for my yield? Is it worth the headache? What are these fancy acronyms that are confusing all of us? We just want the money. And PMPs was in somewhat a middle ground of saying, I want to control who I'm giving my inventory to and set the price and making sure I don't end up cannibalizing what my direct sales are doing.
Yep.
And what's kind of morphed into it in the 5 years later is that publishers aren't really getting the true value of it.
Right.
And that's led to things like programmatic guarantee and other ways to make it a little more painless to get the dollars to flow to the publishers.
Right. Yep.
But what we're seeing, industry-wide, is that PMPs are going to overtake open trading next year, about $20-30 billion worth of open trading globally.
Right.
But publishers still aren't really benefiting, especially in APAC.
So what do you mean? So why are they not benefiting from it? What's
a lot of it's just setting it up, troubleshooting. Because the agencies here, especially work on a regional deal, you might set up a PMP for an agency holding group for Malaysia, and that same publisher might have a different relationship with someone in Thailand.
Right.
And so agencies are getting different rates, different types of inventory.
Right.
And they're spending a lot of time troubleshooting, which is time consuming.
So it sounds like from what you just said, it's not about the technology that is holding it back. It's more the relationships. It's the management of the deals.
I mean, as much as we want to be programmatic, being automation, this is still very much a people business, right?
Yeah.
And so sellers and buyers want to have confidence that what they're buying is real and has value, and it's up to each side to decide what that value is.
Yep.
PMPs is one way of doing it. We come from an IO world, and sometimes that works really well.
Yep.
And then if you look at what Google's trying to do, because they have a position of controlling the inventory from an ad server and then also an exchange, and maybe merging those two categories, they're able to help at least do something like programmatic guarantee, which is a big push for them as a company.
Yeah. What about from a client's perspective? Are you really seeing that clients are driving the use of PMPs? Are they demanding it? So
they're creating because of necessity, because publishers want to transact that way, or they think that's going to give them better preferential pricing or position to get that inventory.
Yep.
But oftentimes they're spending more time than not just keeping track of it. So we are working now with some people who are just managing 700 to 1,000 PMPs.
Right.
And they're just bombarded with spreadsheets and emails and a lot of
an individual client working, you mean?
Maybe, yeah. And so a lot of our efforts is with agencies that just have so much going on that they can't keep track of all this.
Right. Okay, well, which leads me on to, I do want to ask you about something, because I've heard a rumour that IPONWEB is actually bringing a PMP management tool to market.
It's something we'll definitely be speaking more about during the conference, but really what we've seen is that it's become more complicated to just have inventory go back and forth. There's a lot of middleware companies in between that the value isn't really transparent or obvious, and we want to help do a better job of cleaning up that transparency, especially as APAC, it's going from $2, $3, $4 billion of programmatic spend to much more.
Right. So one of the things that we're definitely seeing as it's going to be a key topic area for one of the panel sessions at ATS, but also will continue to come out throughout the day as we're talking about ways in which we manage inventory, the direction for clients and how they want to be moving forward as well, is the rise of connected TV and what we're actually seeing, what's actually happening in market. And so I'm keen to hear your perspective on what you're seeing across APAC and how this is developing.
And it's developing slowly. And I think this will probably be a theme for next year as well and the year after that, because it is so transformational. The idea of programmatic TV or addressable or connect, I think we have 3-4 different names for the same thing, right? Which is essentially linear or traditional television space being bought through some different platforms. And in the old way, it was very done on martini lunches and handshake agreements,
Yes.
and it works, and it's billions of dollars have been transacting that way, right? If you look at the U.S. right now, it's a $50 billion television industry with $4 or $5 billion going right now towards addressable TV.
Right.
And that's probably a 300% increase from 3 years ago.
Yep.
So while that absolute value isn't big, it's grown quite exponentially, and it's going to continue to do so. And in APAC, we're still in the early innings, for sure, where broadcasters here are fragmented. You have big broadcasters for every country. The population that they reach is fragmented, of course, and they're all individually trying to figure out what they do with this new way of buying, and considering is it right for them or not right for them, or what part of the inventory they should put in or not put in.
Yeah, right. And so can I ask, of all the markets across APAC, where are you starting to see some real traction in this space?
Yeah, so us being headquartered here in Singapore, with an office also in Japan, and coverage in Australia, we see Australia in some ways and Japan probably the strongest markets.
Right. Yep.
We do some work with MCN in Australia, where they've actually put in and created a platform where agency buyers can log in and select the audiences and buy the inventory that corresponds with it, which is very groundbreaking and revolutionary. But that journey itself took a couple of years of iteration to get there.
Yeah, right. And then any other markets where sort of who's next on the horizon?
I think Singapore for sure.
Right.
There's no secret that it's ripe for adaptation, and I think what Singapore will do, they'll maybe spearhead to other markets as well. And they want, and I think other markets want to make sure that they're not losing out on revenue by jumping in too fast. And sometimes it's a lot easier just to wait and see.
Right. Yeah.
But also, in some ways, have FOMO of missing out as well. So it's a cat and mouse where people want to jump in but don't want to jump in too fast.
Right. Yeah. And so where do you see what's kind of holding the industry back at this stage? Or who are the ones who are really diving into it? Are you seeing that clients are really pushing for it, or it's the publishers who still really need to get things sorted to move it forward?
Yeah, I think it's a business problem in some ways, right? So you ask a programmatic trader, they want everything to be addressable and have their algorithms aside and then do all sorts of fancy things. But then you also have your procurement arms and your trading deal arms of the different agencies that are happy with where things are going. And then it becomes a matter of, is it a digital budget? It's a TV budget? Why do I need a platform to do something that I've been doing for decades? I have these relationships. I want quality. I don't want to complicate something that's been working decently well, right? And then same thing in broadcast another way. It works. Can it work better? Sure. What's the incentive for each party to agree to do this?
Right. Yeah.
And that's being decided slowly, but very surely.
Yeah. Right. What about any of the consortiums across the APAC market? Are you seeing that they are really starting to look at connected TV as something?
Not so much. Actually, I think a lot of them are still focused on traditional television, display inventory.
Right. Yeah.
And in some ways pre-roll and outstream inventory as well. The role of television, it's really much for the broadcasters themselves to decide.
Right. Yep. Okay. So it's still early days.
Yes.
Seeing some movement, but early days. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about another key topic. So we are going to be talking about the issues around identity management, moving towards what might be an industry dream to have a single ID. What are you seeing in this space? What are the key challenges that are still holding us back? I think it's quite a lofty dream for us to be moving towards as an industry, and I think is it even solvable?
It changes, and by the time this video airs, some new legislation might be out there, or the browsers may make some changes on how they're interpreting this, the common denominator, which is a cookie, which hasn't really been designed for identity management, but it's been a good enough solution. And so, not to say that what Google may do with their Chrome browser extensions or Apple with their ITP, the industry desperately needs a new third solution, and the folks at Trade Desk and other parties at LiveRamp and others are trying to either band together or have or different solutions, which is confusing. And oftentimes that's in some way strengthens the nascent position of the walled gardens as well, which already have an identity solution, because you're logging in on these different platforms on your phone and on your desktop computers, and they're one and the same, and they're pretty persistent. Anyway,
I guess this is not an APAC problem, this is a global problem.
Exactly.
So it's
the challenge, of course, is this is a more of a mobile first region, and so you have your mobile IDs that are pretty much persistent, and most people here in the region will never actually ever have a computer. And so it's not really having linking them to identity, it's just really just making sure that when you do engage with them, it's actually with consent, which is a different challenge. Sure.
Okay, and then the last key theme that we're really seeing coming through that's going to have some coverage across, again, a few different panel sessions that we're running at ATS, is omni-channel marketing, and really starting to see the rise of the direct consumer brand. We're starting to see some traction with different DTC brands here in APAC. What are you seeing in terms of getting real traction in doing true omni-channel marketing and breaking down some of those media silos?
Yeah, I mean, with those omni-channel brands, especially in the US and Europe, and some of them have now become unicorns and some are going public, right? You know, they are digital first, they're mobile first companies. You know, they try things very fast and they iterate, and so that they have a strong relationship with the actual end consumers, with packaging and shipping and their actual marketing efforts. So they're a lot more nimble. I haven't seen too many of those pop up in this side of the world just yet, but that's not to say it's not possible, especially those that are using, you know, the Instagrams and Facebooks of the world to do some sort of advertising. But they're still early days, I think, on this side.
Great. Great. Okay. Well, so again, you know, wonderful to talk to you today, and we're really looking forward to seeing you and the rest of the team from IPONWEB at ATS again this year. So thank you for your time.
No, thank you for having me.